Good evening, everyone. It's Wednesday, November 15th. This is the Board of Commissioners' regular workshop meeting. City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Rostick,
Present.
Vice Mayor Kerr,
Here.
Commissioner Taglerini,
Here.
Commissioner McGinn,
Here.
Commissioner Brooks. Commissioner Brooks is absent at the moment.
All right, thank you. Is there any public comment on any items that are not on the agenda this evening? Please step forward and talk to us. I'll take that as nobody's here, so there won't be any discussion. So the first item up then on our discussion items is recommend firm RFQ 2023-07.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. I'm Robin Gomez, City Manager. The item before you is review and discuss. We issued an request for qualifications RFQ back in June for the city's IT or information technology provider. We have been outsourcing this service for at least the last 10 years, likely longer, but we have been using the same firm or vendor for the last decade. So we issued the RFQ. It was out for 3 weeks, as we normally issue RFQs, RFPs on the city's website, on DemandStar. For 3 weeks, we received 5 replies to the RFQ. Through DemandStar, 13 firms or companies reviewed the document or opened it. But again, we had 5 submittals. Those 5 firms, as are listed in your packet, sorry, I just lost my page. Didn't memorize all 5 firms. Advisec Technologies, LLC, Sendian, Interdev, Network People, and United Data Technologies all met the criteria. Really what we're looking is obviously a comprehensive IT firm with a strong focus on our security of all of our software systems. We currently have 2 servers in-house, but we do rely completely on an outside source for all of the services that we receive and most of the equipment. We have, in order for us to staff it, would be difficult to keep it under the amounts that we have spent on average over the last 10 years. Our IT costs have averaged $184,000 for the last 10 years. They've gone from a low of $111,000 to a high of $245,000. Again, an average of just under $185,000 for the year. We are, fairly small, but we do have multiple systems across multiple departments. From our just different softwares, obviously, that we use, but we're, again, focusing on having experts in both software, hardware, really how and to best manage and also ensure the security of all of the software that we use. We looked at grading. There was myself, our community development engineer, and our broadcast IT coordinator that reviewed the 5 responses, and the main criteria listed in the agenda. The criteria that we use to score all 5 of them, again based from qualifications, experience, and knowledge, all the way through to understanding city governments, our business processes, to ability to meet the requirements that we have, obviously that they have quality assurance programs and strong information technology and security policies in place, how they've performed in the past, and again, mainly in a public setting, specifically any local governments that they've had as clients. Really only 2 of the top 2 firms that were scored, Network People and Sendian, really were the only 2 that kind of really demonstrated strong commitments to local governments and past experience with governmental clients. In your packet, you do not have all 5 responses. They are on the city's website, or certainly we can provide all 5 to you. Some of them are a little bit lengthy. I think in total it would be about 400 pages for all 5 responses. At this time, we are, again, after reviewing and spending some time reading through all the proposals, we are recommending that we enter into an agreement with Network People, Inc., who has been our provider, again, for the last 10 years. We would begin to negotiate at this point, likely looking for either a 3 or a 5-year agreement. Rather, I'm not a big fan of a 10-year agreement as we had before, but either 3 or 5 years that we can negotiate, and then obviously to include all of the services that we're looking for at the rates that we are looking for. The RFQ did incorporate that and I think all 5 are aware that we have in our current year budget $200,000 for IT outsourced services, and so obviously our goal and our aim is to stay within that. From the time that I've been here, I've been pleased with Network People. I think they've done a very good job. They're responsive. They are local. That was another. Only one other firm had a local presence, but not really a permanent. It's an employee that worked remote that was looking to relocate to our area, so they would now be local, but they were one employee, and their main focus, even though they were a manager in the firm, their focus was not necessarily direct IT support. It was a little bit more on the kind of broad customer service support. So also that firm really did not provide us a feel good that they had a fairly responsive customer service to the variety of different questions, or when something may not be working as it should. Network People has been fairly responsive in doing that. If they cannot solve it over the phone, they will send one of their staff here. And we did request in the RFQ at least a weekly presence. The other 3 firms, because they had no local presence, they would be likely obligated to sub that out, so to subcontract with the local firm, which could work out, but really not what we were looking for. We're looking for the firm that we are contracting with to provide those services. You do develop a relationship with, as we do with any of our outsourced services, including our legal to our law enforcement. There is a lot in developing those relationships that need to be positive, no reason why they wouldn't be, but I think the local presence is really what does help and just make really the entire process a little bit more efficient and more effective. And ultimately, my goal is to make sure that our staff feels very comfortable with the tools and the resources that we use every day, from even just our laptops to opening emails to anything and everything that we do every day. We do rely a lot on mobile technology, so taking and making sure that the software is working outside of the office is very important. And Network People has shown that they can even meet out on the field to address any issues that any staff may have. Present tonight are some staff from Network People. If any of you, the mayor commissioners have any questions of them, but we feel very comfortable, and I do recommend that we do begin the process to enter into an agreement with Network People.
I just have one question. How local are they? St. Petersburg, Orlando?
You're in Bel Air, right? Or no, you're in in Clearwater? Yeah.
Okay, so
just outside of Clearwater, I think 19, Ulmerton and 19.
20 minutes away. Okay.
They're very close.
All right.
I was scanning through all your scoring sheets. It looks like all 3, you, Tom, and Marcy, with just 3?
Yes.
You rated Network People, you all put them first?
Yes, we did.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and we were fairly close.
It seemed like you were pretty close.
Spent some time reviewing. It was an open meeting. We invited all 5 to attend. We, again, went through each of the proposals, looked at the criteria, And as we began discussing, our discussions were fairly similar. And then when we scored, I mean, independently after discussing, we came pretty close in the scoring.
good.
Across all five, just a little bit when you got to 4 and 5 of a difference, but we were fairly close in our scoring and our overall evaluation of each of the 5 firms.
Good. My fellow commissioners, I've had some tech issues. I've been shocked at how quickly they respond. From experience with other IT support systems, I've had only good experiences in the few issues that I've had that I've needed their help.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Good to know, thank you. Commissioner Taglerini, couple of questions. What's the number of devices here within the city?
In laptops,
Hardware devices, servers, laptops,
I think we're approaching 80, if I'd have to, close to about 80, laptops, desktops, yeah, servers. We don't include cell phones in that count, but I know we have about 35 cell phones. So in that aspect, I mean, we also connect with, screens. So, I mean, even though the screen is simply projecting, we've recently added, I know we added a laptop downstairs. We're going to add a tablet up here. We recently provided a laptop to each one of the civil service commissioners. So we're probably over 100 in terms of total devices. In terms of users, we're active daily users over 50. In terms, as I said, I think we have 2, we may have 3 servers now. Or Chris, I don't know. I know we have at least 2, 3. Yeah, we have 3 with the marina. Got a new server at the marina recently. Also, there is a backup to this, the backup off-site storage located. We have, yeah, we have one on the East Coast, one on the West. I think one's in Colorado for the backups. And again, away should the state of Florida get wiped out, we would be able to recover everything that we have, even what's backed up on the servers that's backed up offsite.
and you're getting ahead of me. That was one of the
Sorry.
things I was going to ask. So that's roughly $208 per month per device.
For everything that comes with it, yes.
Now, the backup, is that 100%? Do you ever have any issues with not being able to back up, backups failing?
Not in the time that I've been here, I'm not aware of any. Yeah, if you want to come up.
Sure,
Chris, or Chris,
absolutely. Let's
sorry.
talk.
They may have a little bit more of the answers, and they've been here a lot longer than I have, for one. And Chris, if you could.
Yeah, I'm
introduce-
Corey.
Corey, I'm sorry, I
Close.
keep calling you Chris.
I
Yeah.
get called Chris a lot. I'm Corey with Network People. We've been working with the city. This is Hunt.
I'm Hunt Brand. I'm with Network People. I'm the Chief Operating Officer.
Very good.
And I'm Senior Engineer and Director of IT at Network People.
He's a technical guy.
I can tell you a few things.
The guy
yeah,
that makes
for
things
sure.
work.
And to answer the question on the servers, you do have 3 physical servers, and I think I want to say you have 5 actual servers, so virtual machines that run on those physical servers. So the backup server does an hourly backup of your entire network or server network, and then it is we check that on a daily basis. Every morning, we make sure that the backups have run for the day before, and if there's a failure.
That's an automatic check, or is that
Correct.
something that's
Well,
a
the automatic
manual?
check is going on all the time, but a manual check happens every morning when we check it physically, check our backup reports, and then if a failure happens, we immediately respond to that day to get that back up and running. So I don't believe we've had issues here at the city with our backups. We're using one of the most advanced enterprise-level backups that is available. There's a company called Datto Technologies, and so you have a physical server here that acts as a backup server. Everything backs up to that. It has physical hard drives here that backs everything up, and then it also off-sites it to 2 different locations across the country. We can have a virtual image of your servers back up within about 15 minutes, so you won't lose much downtime. And that can be, again, every hour. So if we need to go back a day or a week or up to a year, we have those backups available.
Okay, what if a laptop or goes down? Do we,
We buy
do we
those.
keep backups or of the physical device? We need to change one out or something?
Yeah,
You have a crash, or is there any way that you maintain under data on the condition, I'll say?
Sure,
Of
the
the
individual
hard drive, the
workstations.
individual hard
Yeah,
drives?
the
and-
individual workstations are not backed up per se, but we encourage, obviously, all of the city employees to back up or to save all of their data to the servers. That would be the
So the
first step.
servers are what's backed
So the
up.
servers are what's backed up.
So there's
And
not
then we do have
real-
mechanisms in place to back up some of the information. Obviously, your emails all being backed up offsite through Office 365, and I believe we have Drop Suite on them, correct? I believe so. So we have a backup of your emails happening as well.
Okay, if a laptop goes down and you need to respond, is there a guaranteed response time, or is there an average response time that you've lived up to?
I'll let Hunt speak to our response times.
Okay,
We have a service level agreement, so depending on the criticality of the ticket, like if you call in and somebody says the whole place is down, that's automatically deemed critical. And there's timing for critical, there's timing for severe, and then there's just regular tickets. So each one has a different guaranteed SLA or service level agreement.
okay. Let's assume I'm in the accounting department and my system locks up and I try to reboot and it's just not gonna work. So I have to get you on the phone.
Sure.
What's my response time?
So usually you get somebody on the phone right away, and then they guarantee that you'll have somebody responding, I think on a set of one, it's about an hour?
It's typically a same-day response for level, tier one tickets. And then for high priority tickets, it's a 4-hour response. And then guaranteed resolution, sorry, I couldn't think of the word, resolution within, I think, 2 days. Is that
Yep.
correct?
So depending on the criticality, like if they say you can't make paycheck or your paychecks are down, then we put an engineer on it and then they work, they get right on it. So it's a balancing act, like if it's a one-person sprinter, then it's a normal time frame. But if somebody says it's critical, then we always make it a higher priority.
Okay, and most of that software that you're using, correct me if I'm wrong, that's not real, that's maybe on the laptop, but it's also on the server, so you could change that laptop out pretty easily and get that
Right, so what?
get that employee back
Right, so
to work.
the thing is, if all your data is on the server, which is what we recommend, or in the cloud, because you have Microsoft 365, so you can save stuff in the cloud as well, and it's very secure. So if we have to rebuild a PC, we know what the profile of those PCs are. So if you brought in a brand new one, let's say it just broke completely, we'd know what was on the other one, and we could reinstall all the software, put on all our security tools, which is a key thing, because all of your devices in the city have multiple layers of security. Put that on there as well.
Okay, I'm more thinking of the Clarion software, it's not Office 365, it's
Right.
something
So-
specific to the organization here.
Right. So our team knows your individual software very well, and we know the vendors, we help manage the vendors. So if there's a vendor that has to get involved, we'll work with the vendor to get it up and running.
All right.
Yep.
Is maintenance included in any way here? I personally have had issues where you might have a hard drive, it collects dust. Is there any maintenance included in the contract, or is that billed separately, or you just don't even offer that, or?
So maintenance is built into when you buy the hardware. We recommend a 3-year warranty on it. It actually comes from the manufacturer. So when you buy equipment, it comes with a warranty, and if anything happens within that warranty, the manufacturer will take care of it. And when we meet with Robin and his team, we kind of update on, okay, some of these PCs are getting old, we might be getting out of warranty, and we start thinking about how to replace them. But that's all on a schedule basis, so we're not reacting.
Okay, so it's not really something that's part of your service? It's-
Well,
it's-
yes, on a hardware basis, we would rely on vendor support of warranties. But on a software basis, we do maintenance on your software on a nightly basis. So our system is built such that we can program our software to go in and do updates and patches and fixes on all of your software. And for the most part, that covers most everything. Software like Clarion's obviously in the cloud, so that's not the situation. Munis handles their own updating as well. But we would update any of the software on your local systems and keep it patched and fixed and updated. And so we have a NOC team, a Network Operations Center team, that does all that back-end administrative work to keep the systems up to date and on its latest fixes and patches.
Okay, are you available 24/7, or you have just 8 to 5, or what, as far as receiving a phone call, or is it, you don't even receive a phone call, it's an email or a text, or you have a special way to
Give
contact you?
everybody Hunt's phone number? No, we do have support. 8 to 5 is our normal business hours, but we do have after-hour support on everything as well, and that would be a 24/7 answering service that does that. And like I'm on call right now for our
Okay,
system.
it's-
So
it's
if you
phone
were to
support.
call the answering service and request support, they would text me. I would be able to say, got the text, and I would contact whoever contacted us and see if it's needed or necessary for us to move forward on in an after-hours engagement.
Okay. I'm sure there's other questions. I'm just trying to,
It's all right.
I think, we'll leave it at that unless something pops up.
Sure.
But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, I know what it was.
You want
Is
to
the-
stay up here, or?
Is the contract written as an hourly basis, or this is like a lump sum basis? How many, it doesn't matter how many calls? This
Correct.
is the amount per month,
Right.
which comes out to the annual fee?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
And Mayor and Commissioner, I think you were discussing the software. Most of our software is cloud or on the web. So even our payroll, which is through a company called Paycom, it's all web-based. So that's kind of just how the business world is now, that you have, and governments will have multiple softwares because you're multiple industries. Yes, it'd be great if there was one that could issue you a permit, record a rec fee, track a fire call, but it doesn't exist yet. But most of them are independent, so if you can access them really from anywhere. So I can access Paycom from my work phone, my personal phone, the laptop, a desktop, anywhere in the world because it's web-based.
Right.
And that's just the good part of today's technology.
No, I understand that. The only other, I'm not doubting that this is the best solution, I'll say, as far as meeting your needs. Are we paying a premium for that? I didn't see any prices on other of the competitors.
And really, we were looking for qualifications. They're not going to put, obviously, they know what our budget is. I don't think they would expect, we wouldn't go over a certain amount. And just, again, that's why I provided the historical. That's, whether we are, I don't believe we have been. We're not at the top, but we're also not at the bottom. We need to make sure that we're as secure as we can be and as efficient and effective. So it's difficult for them to give you an exact price, but that's what we will come up with an agreement and determine what that rate will be.
So what you're asking for us tonight is to negotiate an
Begin that,
agreement
yeah.
not to exceed
Correct.
the budget. Okay. That's understandable. Yeah, just from, like I say, I wouldn't have any reference to cost for a city, but for a small business, I would. $208 per device seems a little high, but I'll leave it to you to negotiate.
And then we would bring an agreement back to you at the December 13th meeting.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for all your answers and your support over the last 10 years. Thank you.
Commissioner McGeehan, do you have any comments?
I believe it's all covered. Thank you. And thank you for 10 years.
Yes. The only thing that I'd like to say is the mayor We've had you under contract. We've had no issues. Out of 5 vendors, you're the only one that showed up here to answer any questions too. So I think it's truly a no-brainer. All right, I guess we can move on then to Pinellas, Forward Pinellas Alternative Compromise for Johns Pass Village.
All right, this presentation will look very familiar. I'll just kind of go through it quickly and just stop me if you have any questions. So why are we doing the Johns Pass Village Activity Center? These are the main points. We want to protect the village, the unique character of the village. We want to have compatible redevelopment. We need to be consistent with the countywide plan, and this is a way of being proactive instead of reactive in planning. Now, the relationship with our local land regulations, there's really 3 that we focus on. So we have the countywide plan with Forward Pinellas, and then locally we have our comprehensive plan, and then we have our code of ordinances. And so at the county's level, you'll have the intensity, density, uses. It's pretty basic. And then locally, through the comprehensive plan, we'll also have the use, the intensity, the density. That has to be in line with the county's plan. And then further restrictive is our code of ordinances. This is where you have your setbacks, your height, your pool regulations, all of that. So if the county in their land regulations states 60 units per acre as the density, we cannot, in our comprehensive plan or in our codes, say, okay, well, we want to increase that. We want to be 70 units per acre. We can be equal to the county, or we can be more restrictive. We can go 40 units per acre or anything lower than that, but we cannot have standards that are higher than the county. So this is what it looks like, the 3 maps that we'll be talking about. We have the countywide plan map on the left side, followed by the land use map on the bottom right, and the zoning map on the top right. And through this Johns Pass Village Activity Center, at this time, we're really focusing on the county's plan and then our comprehensive plan. And our comprehensive plan, that's called the future land use. So you have the future land use map and then the categories. A little bit of background. In 2008, the city adopted inconsistent standards. For Pinellas, which was PPC at the time, they reviewed the amendments, informed the city of the inconsistencies. Nothing happened from there. In 2020, we realized the inconsistencies and reached out to Forward Pinellas and have been working with them on how to move forward. So one of the solutions in Johns Pass Village is to do a land use change because there's a lot of non-conforming properties and inconsistencies, where up and down Gulf Boulevard, we're able to do some text changes in the code and in the comprehensive plan. So the areas that we are inconsistent, you can see they're highlighted in these 2 tables. We have the countywide plan, future land use on the left side, and then on the right side, we have the future land use locally, which is in our comprehensive plan. And like I stated before, we cannot have standards that are higher than the counties. So all the highlighted numbers are higher than the county in what they allow. So just an example of, on the first slide, we stated that we want to have compatible development to what's existing in Johns Pass in that area. So this is what you can build, say on Village Boulevard in the C1 zoning district. Obviously, that would not fit into the character down there, and so that's what we're trying to fix with this land use change. And like I stated before, we have a concentration of non-conforming buildings in this area, in Johns Pass Village area. So that's why instead of doing a text change through the zoning and the comprehensive plan, that's why we're going for a land use change. And we talked about this before, why the boundary goes to 133rd Ave. Well, as you can see in these pictures, looking south towards Johns Pass Village, you can see that those two buildings are a lot larger in development than looking north, so that's really where it drops off. So that's one of the reasons why the boundary goes that far. As well as we always like to look at the master plan. And in the master plan, there was a proposal of turning Johns Pass area, as you can see in this slide, to an activity center. So we're really focusing on both of those, and we actually reduced in the proposal that went to the county from what was in the master plan. And lastly, we have a lot of inconsistencies in the county's plan and our comprehensive plan on what is built around this area, around 133rd. So it's really fixing those as well. So what this would look like in our comprehensive plan and the countywide plan would just be activity center. It would be blue. But we know that development on 133rd looks very different than Pelican Lane, which looks different than Village, which looks different than Boardwalk. So that's why locally in our comprehensive plan, we would have this special area plan, which is attached in your packets, that really goes through all of these character districts that recognizes these different areas that would have different densities, different intensities. And then that would be reflected in the zoning once this is approved. Then we can go to the zoning, and these would all be different zoning categories. And so that would be reflected in the setbacks and height, et cetera. So the recommendation from Fort Pinellas, they agree that it should be an activity center, but they were asking for a lesser subcategory. So these are all the subcategories for activity center in the countywide plan. In January, we submitted an application for an activity center of a community center level. And the Fort Pinellas came back saying, yes, it should be an activity center, we agree, but they would like to see it as a neighborhood center. So what you have in your packet and a few slides from here, we'll go over, staff reduced those numbers to fit within that neighborhood center subcategory of activity center. And then also use the alternative temporary lodging use standards that is allowed by the county. And through this alternative temporary lodging use standards, they have stricter requirements compared to what could be built by right. You have to have a development agreement to include the design standards, concurrency management, hurricane evacuation plans, and mobility management. Another thing that's a little unusual is the floor area ratio. That's how we calculate the intensity of a building, would have to include the parking structure and various other accessory uses, which is very unusual. And this would also give the Board of Commissioners and residents additional tools to see future temporary lodging uses within Johns Pass Village. And we're using this also up and down Gulf Boulevard, which will be going to second reading in December. So in this slide, I think this slide is really good to look at what we have now in our comprehensive plan, and then what we will be proposing. I don't know how clear you can see this, but it is on page 90 of your packets. And anywhere with the asterisks by the number, like up here, that's where we're proposing that alternative temporary lodging use standard. So you'd have to get a development agreement, that would have to go to Planning Commission, it'd have to go to BOC, it would have to have the design standards, mobility management, all of those things to get that higher density and higher intensity. And remember that intensity, that floor area ratio, would also include the garage, which typically we do not count the garage. And then down here, where you see the two numbers, that's a sliding scale. So it's based on the lot area that you have. And as we know, the average lot size is quite small in Madeira Beach. So it can be a little tricky to imagine what those densities look like. So on this slide, we have each character districts, the density for residential and temporary lodging units, and then the intensity. And so anywhere where you see that asterisk is that development agreement, that alternative temporary lodging use standards. So what we did on this slide, we took the average lot size of each district and multiplied it to see what that would be with the temporary lodging units per acre using that development agreement, so that higher standard. I'd also like to note that we always round down when we're looking at density. So I don't have a calculator in front of me, but say if that 13 number is 75 times 0.18 is, say, 13.8, then we go with the 13. We don't round it up to 14. We always round down. So where we are right now, the application went to Forward Pinellas. Forward Pinellas requested the alternative compromise. From there, the alternative compromise will need to be voted on at the next BOC meeting. And so that's up for BOC to determine yes or no, we want to go forward with the alternative compromise to that neighborhood center. And then from there, it would go to the county's, CPA, the county, to vote on. And then after that, if they agree, it would go back to BOC for second reading. So at this time, we have, I'm going to forward to, let's see, page 90. Oh, that's 127. Page 127. I think this one's also really good to look at. So this is in the special area plan, which is in your packet. It's page 127. You can see what we originally proposed that went to Forward Pinellas, and now it has a strike through. We'll remove that. And then you can see the reduction in the numbers of what's now being proposed through that neighborhood center subcategory. And so at the next BOC meeting, you will vote on whether to go forward with the neighborhood center. We'll also have the special area plan, that 70-page document that'll also go to Forward Pinellas. So at the December meeting, you'll vote on that. You can also vote on these numbers. If you want to reduce these numbers, that would be one opportunity to do it. You'll also have a second opportunity once it comes back for second reading. But at that time, you can't increase any numbers, but you will be able to decrease numbers. And then on top of that, we will have the zoning, and at that point in the zoning, you can decrease numbers. You will also be setting the setbacks, the height, all of that. So there's multiple times that you will see the Johns Pass Village Activity Center and have opportunities to decrease or reduce things.
I'm pretty sure this is the same discussion that we had last time we had our face-to-face. A question has come up to me that I have. I see that those impervious surface ratios are all 0.95. What are the ISRs for residential buildings, residential properties? Is it 0.70?
It depends on your zone. So we have ISR it's actually with the county. It's in the countywide plan. And then it's also in our comprehensive plan and in our zoning. So in the zoning, I believe it's in R2
R2,
is
say R2.
0.7. I believe it's 0.7 in R2.
Right. So how would this impact the rebuilding of these structures if we went to a lower ISR for some of these buildings? Maybe not 0.70, but maybe 0.85 even. Is that something that could be considered?
Yes, that's something that would be considered. I think it would also be in the zoning as well.
That would still be in,
So-
so that wouldn't require any kind of changes otherwise? This is just
Yeah.
something we could just, if we decided to, impervious surface ratio, just more area that water can get through into the island. It could help it could impact the environmental health of the barrier islands.
And you can also have increased landscape as well in the zoning.
In addition to lower ISR?
Well, it's
Or
up
both?
to you.
Or it's the same thing? I see.
You
I see.
could,
That's just another way to approach it, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'd be interested in discussing that if you think that, unless somebody can make a case against it, at least lowering it to a 0.85 compared that I've just
Okay.
a broad search what's going around in these other areas. I think that would at least be an attempt at, I know we don't see a lot of huge erosion on our beach, on our island, but this is a way that we can make a positive step in that direction, lower the ISR for that area.
and then we'll also definitely be looking at that when we do the zoning.
Okay, great. Sorry. You talked a few times about the inclusion of parking in the FAR, is that right?
Yes, and that's only if you're using the alternative temporary lodging
Oh, I see. But
standard.
can you just dig a little deeper into that and tell me how?
Yeah.
I assuming you're saying that decreases the densification by including that parking. Am I right about that? Or can you go a little deeper into that, explain that to me?
It's more of the intensity. So floor area ratio is the ratio between the lot size and the building. So the easiest way to imagine it is like the air-conditioned area, but the only time that we count it, and this comes from the county, is whenever you use that alternative temporary lodging use standard. Those are higher standards that they require us to count the garage in that calculation.
Even though it's not air-conditioned?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
if you can, I don't know, dummy it down for me a little bit, does that mean more intensification or less if you include the garage?
It's less.
Oh, less.
Because you would be
It seemed like
counting
it
that,
was.
you would be counting that garage
Got
instead.
it, where nobody actually can live.
Yes,
I gotcha.
exactly.
Okay. Mr. Gomez, I wanted to ask you, you have had a couple breakfasts or happy hours with city manager. Has this subject come up any further in any of your resident
No.
discussions?
Excuse me, not to any great extent.
Not to any great extent. Right, 'cause-
Questions as to, I'm sorry to interrupt, where we are in the process.
Okay. I just want to know, make sure that we're making this discussion known. I mean, this is a drastic difference, in my opinion, from the original proposal of activity center. And I think if residents understood what we're actually talking about now, because generally speaking, the response is no, right? But what I don't think most people understand is we're down a notch or two, and the densification is not drastically impacted. Is that generally a,
Yeah, I would say so, and a lot of the numbers have been reduced as well.
right? Yes,
And
there's
then
less in
we'll
some
also have the
areas.
zoning, and I think that's what people think, oh, everything's gonna change. No, we still have to do the zoning.
Right.
And we plan to have multiple public meetings,
Good.
input, and that's really where you're going to see the zoning's the nitty gritty. That's your setbacks, that's your height, that's what people see, that's what you think of when you think of, oh, what can I develop on my property? You really look at the zoning.
And even in areas where we do show a potential increase, those are only areas that would be what people know as a planned development, where it would have to be specially approved. Is that correct?
So the areas with like the asterisks in this, let me see if I can zoom up. That's hard to see on the screen. That are higher, you would not have to rezone to a planned development, but you would have to get a development agreement. And
Oh,
in that,
development agreement,
in that
okay.
development agreement, that's still a very lengthy,
Right.
difficult process. You have to have neighborhood meetings.
It's not a
you
rubber
have to-
stamp. I want to build this, here's my
No.
plan.
And it
It's
has
not.
public meetings
Got it.
too. So BOC will see it, Planning Commission
So
will
if we
see
just
it.
went by buildings that are, construction by rights, reconstruction by rights, the densification is not drastically impacted by the neighborhood center.
No, and I can, like I was saying, I think that this slide, let's see, it is page 90 is a really good representation of,
Right. I
well,
remember.
what's written in our comprehensive plan versus what's proposed. And you have to think of, well, what's written in the comprehensive plan, not everything that's built down there meets that. A lot of things exceed that, so you have to keep that in mind. And then you also have to keep in mind what's written in our comprehensive plan also exceeds what the county allows. So there's a lot of factors going on, but this shows you side by side, by district, what's proposed versus what's current. So the white box is what's current.
Got it. Thank you for those
course.
answers. And again, if you can make a note to maybe include in the next presentation what it would, how it would impact if we lowered the ISR to 0.85.
I would say the only thing that would be tricky is Village Boulevard, this general area, a lot of things are completely paved, so, as you
Understood.
know. But yeah, definitely, we can put that in the comprehensive plan. And the thing about, you know, putting that or including it, that 0.85 in the activity center, you then in the zoning can say, well, actually, in this area, we want to go 0.75, say. And you can do that.
Okay, got it, thanks.
One thing I just wanted to mention,
Came for you.
on page
Yes.
61 and 62, we included a page that shows existing activity centers in Pinellas County as of, it was October of 2019. They've added, I think, another one in Largo, but it's pretty similar to what currently exists now. And it shows neighborhood centers, it shows some examples. One of them is the 8th Avenue Commercial District in St. Pete Beach, which I think is Paso Grill. The Downtown Historic Palm Harbor Master Plan, and one in Dunedin, one in Tarpon Springs. So these are more either small, either areas that are very unique or historic. So they're somewhat similar to Johns Pass, and it shows how it's a more restrictive category than community center. But it's important to show that like other cities have this and have different types, but we're going with the more restrictive one that compared to what other cities have done.
So are you suggesting these are neighborhood centers or no?
These are neighborhood
These are-
centers.
These
yeah.
are neighborhood centers,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, St. Pete Beach.
And a lot of them have that Main Street
Yeah.
character that you also see in Johns
Got
Pass
it.
Village.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's just unusual category, so the activity center is how you get to be unique and capture that character.
Got it, thank you.
It's an interesting compromise between the county and Madeira Beach. How did remind us again, how did the county come up with the sub-plan of the neighborhood center instead of the community center?
They were looking at the land size. Now, they do make some allowances with the land size, which is one of the reasons why originally it went to community center. Let's see, the amendment area size, the 27 acres, the limited walkability, so the sidewalks, and I think those were the main things. It's also not identified as an existing or planned activity center.
And usually with the community centers, they want two
intersecting-
corridors.
Which we only have one secondary corridor.
Yeah.
So I don't have a map of that, but that's in the countywide plan as well. It's like busy roads, basically.
I think also, wasn't there some pushback in one of their county meetings that they had from residents? Wasn't there some pushback that?
They got some of the emails
Yeah.
from people, but at the last meeting, they only had one person show up,
Oh.
which was in support.
I was thinking about the one you sent me the video to, so.
So in that video, there's one business owner from Johns Pass Village, and she spoke in support.
But the rest were
but there-
emails. I
But
gotcha.
yes,
I
there
gotcha.
were
Okay.
emails.
Yeah, their board ended up all voting in support of it. Their main concern was with overdevelopment, but they thought this compromise would meet the needs of allowing some development and protecting what currently exists, but not allowing too much development. So it was kind of a good middle ground.
And one quick question. Under the neighborhood center, if we did have a catastrophic event, now we need to rebuild Johns Pass. Can it be rebuilt like it was before?
Yes, absolutely, with that neighborhood center.
But that's protected under the neighborhood center?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So to Commissioner Taglerini's point then, what was proposed from Mr. Healy, 9 months ago, a year ago, this is considerably less, but achieves the same point. What Mr. Healy was proposing was more increasing development. This is protecting the village to be able to rebuild as is and
with compatible development.
right. To the other point, though, Commissioner Taglerini brought up about the ISR, I believe we addressed that a year and a half ago to quite an extent, and we agreed on what there's would be to reassess those again. I don't know that I'd be game for that. I think we've crossed that bridge. Let's move on, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and when we do the zoning, it will come up again,
Okay.
the ISR, because we see the ISR in the zoning as well. So each district, each character district will have its own ISR. If it's the same number, we'll be, having public meetings and getting input. But we will be creating new zoning categories, and so that's, you're going to be looking at your setbacks, your height. ISR is one of those things as well.
Okay, so we vote on this package at the next regular meeting?
Yes,
And then
December.
it's sent back to Forward Pinellas?
Yes, and then it'll come back to you at second reading. So even at second reading, if you want to make changes to reduce anything, you can't increase anything at that time, but to reduce anything, you can do that at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Great. job.
No other questions? All right. Next up then is RFP 2023-08, electrical repair.
And we have, excuse me, Ms. Webb for Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. So what I bring before you this evening is the RFP, request for proposal for electrical repair services contract agreement. From the background, we did this it was actually an RFQ back in 2018. We had 3 submittals for that. Of those 3 companies, only one was really the most responsive, which is USA Voltage. So the term of the agreement is expiring, I believe, December. So we went back out, and the only submittal that we received was USA Voltage. We did do the same city website, demand star, but for some reason, USA Voltage is the only one that has submitted. The proposal is the same exact cost from 2018. We have not received any increase in those fees. So it's $75 per regular hour, and I believe it's $90 after. This is not for any particular project. These are maintenance repairs. I think last year in fiscal year 23, we had a CIP for Archibald lights. So if you notice, those lights over there had changed. They are now all amber. They look really pretty. So on average, maintenance-wise, we spend probably about $25,000 to $30,000 with him, between all the facilities. They can do marine, anywhere from marine to exterior to streetlights to interior. A lot of these fixtures in these buildings are discontinued, so we've had to switch over to new LED fixtures. So it's just an as-needed service. And Daryl is right over on 70th Avenue, so we call him. He is here within 20 minutes. He also does work on our sign that's outside as well, so I am here to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioners, Vice Mayor?
Great. How long is the term?
It'll be for 3 years with 2 optional 1-year renewals.
Perfect. Yeah, the longer the better.
I concur.
I have no problem going with USA Voltage.
No, not at all. Sounds like a plan.
Thank you.
All right, then next item up is the capital garbage truck purchase or lease discussion for FY '24.
Good evening again. We have a garbage truck. I see your look, Vice Mayor. We have a garbage truck in the fiscal year '24 for the capital equipment. These trucks go on about a 6 to a 7 year schedule for replacement. We are replacing truck number 33 that is actually currently in need of repair because the rear seal on the engine blew out. I wasn't going to spend $5,000 to repair the truck if we are replacing the truck. So I did give you a lot of information in this, but really I'm coming before you to kind of discuss 2 options. We are going to move forward with an automatic side loader, but that is only because of the labor that we've talked about previous meetings. So when we rolled forward with this new program with the toters, the ultimate goal was to go to a side loader, to be able to run the sanitation crew with a 2-person crew or 1 if absolutely needed. That's not the plan, but if absolutely needed. As we've discussed previously, we've had a major labor shortage in sanitation. And the 2.5 years that I've been the Public Works Director, I have had a full staff for maybe 2 months. The shortest term member that I had was 2 days, 3 days, and he quit because it's so labor intensive. And this was with the new toter program. So it is much, 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 much simpler now than it was this time last year, but it's still very labor intensive. So what I'm bringing before you is the option to purchase a side loader which as you can see, I have two different quotes for that. Well, two different quotes from two different vendors. It's anywhere from $369,000 to $379,000, all the way up to $403,000 from the other vendor. Or we lease a garbage truck for $8,500 a month, which has pros and cons both ways. Either way, whichever you choose for us to move forward with, I am totally open with. My only reason for wanting to look into leasing the truck is our mechanic has been with us and he is phenomenal. He is the reason why our fleet is still running, both garbage, rec center, public works, everywhere, fire. But he's probably going to retire within the next 2 years. He saves us a significant amount of money by working on those trucks in-house. Anytime we have to send a truck out for repair, if he's not here or not able to fix it, we're looking at a $5,000 to $10,000 bill. So with leasing a truck, the maintenance cost is covered by the lease. It is very expensive. We do not own the truck at the end of the lease, but we also don't have to pay for the maintenance costs. I have a 2020 truck that I just got a quote to repair. The hopper is rusting out on it already, which is the Packer. One quote so far that I've received, $6,700. This truck is 3 years old. So typically we go through a lifespan and sometimes those trucks have to be relined once or twice while we own them. And that's not even covering the cost of the cylinders or any of the other repairs. So I am here for any discussion, questions.
Maybe you said this right at the start. What's the lifespan of one of these things?
6 to 7 years. Honestly, the newer trucks are not made nearly as well as what they used to be made. I have a 2023 that I've had significant problems with. It's
So-
had the same cylinder replaced 3 times already.
So that's 6 to 7 years, but repairs along the way? Lots
Oh,
of
of course.
along the-
I
that's
mean,
not-
there's seals, hydraulic hoses. That's not even just the regular service.
Is there anything not covered in the lease that we would have to?
Tires, usually tires and batteries are not covered, which
But these $6,000 repairs,
are covered, yes. And with a lease, rather than sending a truck to a shop and being out that truck for whatever the time frame may be, they will then bring us a lease truck. So we wouldn't be short on a truck during that time. Whereas with this new truck, number 23, every time it's been at Tampa Crane for a month and a half, I've had a shortage on a truck.
I've got a few questions. How many trucks do you run a day?
Typically, there is one truck on commercial and one truck on residential, but Mondays and Fridays, we typically will pack out at least one, so then all 4 trucks will be on the road at one point.
Okay, we have 4 packed trucks now?
We do.
Okay,
Technically 5, I have one that I'm getting rid of.
gotcha. Okay. And the one that we're going to get rid of is a rear loader, and we're going to go to a side loader, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Isn't there another option? Don't we contract out our recycle?
We do.
Have we thought about contracting out our trash removal and getting out of that business?
I think
That's
that
an
years
option.
ago, they had brought that to the residents, and they did not vote for that. That was before my time. But we do have 3 trucks that are fairly new, so, I mean, we could always sell those trucks. I mean, yes, that is an option.
Do we know what would be most cost-effective in the long run, a 10-year plan of?
I haven't looked at that, no.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we could, we've talked about taking a look sometime this year in terms of what, if we're at that point where it would be significantly less, what the difference would be, whether it is, and I think to alleviate the concerns, it would have to be significantly less likely to, at a similar level of service. I don't know if we'll be able to get the level of service that we have, but I think that's a big consideration in terms of switching and outsourcing versus what we have been doing. So we can certainly look at that. As Megan said, we did have because the city has provided the service for many, many years, it's just over time, we schedule these replacements of the vehicles over time. But just changing society as a whole, it's been difficult to keep the workforce, as has been stated. And of course, the cost of the equipment just continues to escalate.
Absolutely, and then with the workforce issue, that would no longer be our problem, and.
Correct.
Yeah, and then we have the issue of renting the property to store the trucks, what's that, 3,000 a month or so times, so that'd be 36,000 or more a year that we would, just some ideas.
We would still have to rent that for the mechanic, so we would not get rid of
Unless-
that
yeah.
space unless we built a building.
Rent it for the mechanic.
That's the shop where the trucks get worked on?
It's not just our garbage trucks, but it's the city's entire fleet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you read the contract verbatim? It says that you can only store trucks there, you can not do anything else.
We've rented that place
Oh,
for
I understand,
multiple
but-
years, but we haven't, there's two different parts of that lease, and no, I didn't read through it. I mean, that's the same lease we've been signing for
Okay, I was just
probably
reading it.
15 years.
That's fine.
But we have inside of the barn that's over there, which is where the mechanic is, we also have significant storage over there for public works since we don't have a facility on the island.
No, nor the square footage to store it all. Okay. Is there any idea of maybe doing a re-chassis or rebox? Replace one or the other, or are they both so shot that they both have to go, as in the Packer box versus your rolling chassis?
It wouldn't be feasible for these trucks. They're just,
That'd
we
be
just
up.
continue putting money into these trucks, so they're costing us more money in the long run.
Okay.
Well, I'm intrigued by the outsourcing, but I'd be interested to know the bottom line cost of that. But by just looking at costs of lease versus buying another truck, what are the downsizes of leasing it? I mean,
It's not our asset.
it's what?
It's not ours. We lease it.
But
There's not really any negatives, I mean,
Well, it
except
appears
for,
to be a little bit more expensive
it
over
is more
time.
pricey, yes.
If we have the truck for 6 years, a lease would be 600,000. We're purchasing the truck for approximately 380. You add the maintenance to the truck, I don't think that would equate to an additional
I see.
120,000, 220,000.
Yeah, we would
But
hope
after,
not.
but after 6 years, then we'd have to replace that truck anyway, wouldn't we?
Not necessarily. So, I mean, the trucks, we're gonna say at minimum, we get 6 years out of those. That's just dependent on the truck, the use. Obviously, the commercial trucks get heavier use because they're with the dumpsters and they're on the road 7 days a week. Whereas the residential truck is on the road 5 days a week. Not nearly as excessive use from the dumpsters and the commercial properties. So it's really, we could probably push them out 7 or 8 years. It just depends at that time what type of maintenance we're looking at. Is the rear seal blown on it? Is the hopper totally rusted out? You know, food waste in the back of a truck just eats away at the metal. And metal is not nearly as good as what it used to be, which is how I mentioned the hopper on the 2020 truck that already needs to be relined, which is, I mean, usually we get a few years more out of it than that.
Now, let me ask you this about your maintenance program. Is the internal body washed out once a week?
Oh, yeah. These trucks are serviced probably more often than what they should be serviced. I mean, we have a guy who washes them out and cleans them out, sprays them down. So it's not that they're not getting washed out or anything like that. It's just the heavy, heavy use that these trucks see.
And they don't make them like they used to?
They do not.
Okay, so let's go back with the truck that's out of service. It's out of service for a rear main seal?
Yes.
So we're leaking engine oil out of the rear main seal of the engine?
You can't drive it. It's not drivable.
It leaks that much?
Oh, yes. You can't even move it.
So we want to sacrifice this truck for a $3,500 repair?
That's at minimum. That is
At a minimum.
a quote for
Okay.
them.
Okay.
Every time we receive a quote from this company, it's at least 20% more. They have to drop the transmission to get to it, and then
I'm
that's if
familiar.
nothing else is wrong with the engine or anything that they
But it
see.
is a 2016, though?
The 33, I
The
believe so.
one that we want to dispose of?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, all right. So it's near its end of its life expectancy.
And it's a much smaller square yard. So now we're at 32, 33 yards. This one is 27. So it's older, it doesn't pack as well.
More trips to the landfill.
It's a Peterbilt, we're now with Kenworth, so just much different trucks.
Yeah. I'd be very curious to see what it would take to go over to contract this out. Is it something that's feasible? I'm just curious.
The entire service.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the entire solid waste sanitation.
Boy, that would solve a lot of problems where lack of staffing, you have to hire temporaries that last a day or two, just some ideas. What do you think, Commissioner McGeehan?
Outsourcing, I think it has a lot of benefits to
Microphone?
that. What's that?
Microphone?
Outsourcing has a lot of benefits to it. I would like to get more into right now, I would like to get more into the money aspect and the bottom line, and which would really make it a lot easier decision, I believe, for myself and maybe for everyone else.
Do we know of any small municipalities like us that contract it out?
The Reddingtons
Yeah,
do,
Reddingtons
but
do.
I mean, Treasure Island has their own
St.
sanitation.
Pete- Yeah, St. Pete Beach has their own,
Yes.
Seminole.
So
has their
anybody
own.
more like our size has their own. But smaller than us, the Reddingtons do contract.
But also, you said the mechanic will be 2 more years. and-
Probably
and
about 2 more years, maybe a little bit longer.
And when we ask about what's the downfall of outsourcing, well, it's not our asset, it's not ours. And if we have a great mechanic that saves us a lot of money, we have to look at that aspect and angle as well.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think the two biggest factors are, can we afford to do it? What kind of customer service are we going to get?
Not anything like we have.
Well, we don't know.
It'll be like the recycling.
I mean, but they are under contract, so they can be hammered a little bit to do the right thing, so, but we don't know what we don't know right now.
So I mean, the only way would be to put it out for an RFP and see what happens.
Sorry to muddy the waters, just another idea. It's like, how can we make the system work better?
Exactly. Direct for web for. You know where I stand about the side truck and the single driver. I mean, level of service is where we've talked about. We would still have to have the 2-man crew at minimum, but as far as let's take it one piece at a time. Andrew, could you do an ROI one way or the other and show us what the cost difference would be leasing versus what our average costs are on purchasing and then maintaining that truck for a 5 or 6 year period? Just kind of give us an idea of how you see it.
Yeah, I mean, I can work with Direct for Webfer on that. There's several assumptions to make, right? In regards of maintenance, repair, et cetera.
I mean, we only have the experience that we have on our existing trucks. We'd be able to provide all of that. Here's what it costs, here's all the maintenance over X number of years, and here's the total. And compare that versus if we leased at apparently $102,000 a year.
We also wouldn't be able to, know what type of emergency fixes.
So we would only be able to go back in time, we
No,
wouldn't be able to go
I
forward.
understand, but at least we'd have some historical
Something, right.
idea with increases, justifiable, what do repairs go up? 10% a year cost? I don't know. That's why I was trying to take some of that off of your plate and have Andrew help you with that. But as far as the level of service, if we're trying to get to a one-man crew, I think that we definitely need to inquire what the cost would be to outsource it. If years ago, the residents opposed outsourcing it. We all know why, is because of the level of service, which quite a bit of that has been taken away with not going into the backyards anymore. Justifiably, I'm not throwing stones. It was something that the residents had gotten accustomed to for quite some time, and now it was changed, I'll just say. But if we're eventually getting to that point, you know, I think there's so much value of having that man on the ground. I've had personal experiences that I've shared that side hopper, I guess is what they call it, basically crushes that recycling container. I don't know if you watch them pick that thing up, but I have, because twice in a row, cardboard was in the bottom, and it was loose. It was not stuck. But when that sidecar, that arm comes out to grab it, it changes. It just grabs it so hard that can just changes, and now it's stuck. But it's not because it was stuck when it was originally in there. It's because now that they're picking it up and it's not coming out. I had to run down the street and stop the guy the second time. Luckily, he had stopped on his own to take a break or whatever he was doing, and I got him, and we got it taken care of. But if I'm having those kind of problems, who else is having those kind of problems? And finding recyclables on the street the day after the trucks come through. I don't know. I just have bad experiences with the whole side hopper thing. We made decisions to go with the new can so that we could use the back hopper. And now we're looking to change that again. I'm having problems with it.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
So the intent is not to go to one single person.
I know, you
The
mentioned that.
intent is to keep it at a two-person. But in the event of a staffing shortage, as we've had, the operation can go on with one single person, because if you have a rear loader, it is impossible to have it as a one-person crew.
It would take too long to collect.
It would take hours just to do a road, because every stop it would be in and out of the truck. So the intent is to keep it a two-person, because so I had a senior worker who's been with the city for 28 years, who turned in his letter of resignation to retire and gave me a week and a half notice. He was a main driver on that residential route. I now have another person who is on the back of that truck, who is the fill-in driver, who is planning to retire in December of next year. So that leaves me with a residential crew of one guy that's only been with us for 2 weeks, and then I have a new guy starting on Monday, with the hopes that I can continue with a full crew on this route. And as you mentioned with the side loader with Waste Pro, there's adjustments that can be made on those arms so that they do not crush that can. That is almost an operator error that's happening. And when you have those, the adjustments are made on the can that you have. So with Waste Pro working for multiple different municipalities, they're working with all different types of cans. They're working with rounds, they're working with toters that are squared. And I know this because of the Broyhill that we have. So when we ordered that machine, they said, what type of can are you going to have? So that when you do grab it, it doesn't crush the can. So there's different adjustments that can be made.
So is this a discussion we have to have with Waste Pro?
It is.
And we have.
Yeah, and we have talked to them, but honestly, I haven't had any complaints. So if I don't get the complaints, then I
Well,
can't.
the thing is, I wouldn't even know if I wasn't there actually watching him, because I knew,
Yeah.
hey, I was outside. I've been having a problem, so I went out to look, and again, it was half full again. And he just happened to stop. I mean, all the stars were aligning.
Was that the one just recently?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I watched him do it, and it was like, oh my God, there's no wonder. It just,
Right.
the whole square can was oblong. It was just,
And you almost have to pick those up perfectly, because if you don't pick them up perfectly, then the arm doesn't grab them correctly. So there's, pros and cons with using a different service and contracting it out. You're not going to get the same level of service that you get.
but the
that we
thing is, I
currently
would
have.
typically be inside, and most people are, and that's why you don't get complaints, because they don't know. They just, look at the condition of this can.
I
I've
have
only
gotten
had it-
calls that
I've-
they've
I've had
been
it for a
broken.
year, yeah.
But Waste Pro comes out immediately and does fix them, to my knowledge. I don't get calls back saying that they haven't been repaired.
Yeah, I'm sure when the lid doesn't go on just right, people make adjustments and fix them themselves if they can, and if it's broken permanently, then you get the call, but still. I just want to maintain the level of service that we have to the best we can.
I agree.
I will add, if we were to outsource, I find it very difficult that a company would not, they would only have side loaders.
Correct.
And likely just the driver, just as we're seeing with recycling.
And I understand that, but
But we can also phrase it.
I want to prevent to get to that, to downgrade to that level of service.
I wouldn't call it a downgrade, but that's that's your experience is what you're
That's
saying,
my
that happened a few
experience, okay?
times.
If it's not recycling on in the
Understood.
lawn, it's going to be trash in the lawn.
But I'm just stating, going forward, then we would likely word the RFP that we're not interested in the side loader, if that's your desire.
That's my thought.
Then
I
it would be
mean,
more, likely more expensive is what I'm
Okay.
getting at, because most companies are moving away from 3-person, 2-person to just the driver. That's the future, unfortunately. Whether we like it or not, that's where it's headed. It's technology, it's improvements, it's efficiency. I understand, you've had a bad experience. I think we've had how many
I haven't had
issues?
a bad experience. I've had
Multiple bad experiences.
multiple bad experiences.
But I think total, since we started, we've had
Maybe 12.
maybe a dozen, not even. So out of the thousands of collections, that's actually pretty good. I agree, it should be 0 or close to 0, but I don't think that's feasible. But certainly, Waste Pro has been extremely responsive. They have cameras everywhere, they record, it has GPS. We've had people, they didn't collect me. Well, they did. Your can was not there. That's what the camera showed. That has been a few of them. So just stating that in the future, unfortunately, that's where it is. I will, as I've said several times, we have been behind in this city for many years. 1, not raising the rates,
Yes.
and 2, not looking forward. But that's how small cities have managed their waste. But I think you're seeing the end of that is approaching, unfortunately.
Do we have an agreement with temporary labor when we have someone not show up?
We do, but the problem that you'll see with temporary labor is you'll call in the day before for a worker, and they might show up. They might show up they're supposed to be here at 5:30 in the morning. They might show up at 8. They might show up half drunk from the night before. Most of the time, there's a reason why they're a temporary laborer. So have we operated like that for the past 9 years that I've been here? Absolutely. But we also are down to one labor company in this county because they don't like the liability of having people on the back of the trucks. So will there come a time where they don't allow that, the insurance companies or don't want to allow that? I'm sure. So we're just trying to plan for the future and plan for operation and how to operate moving forward. Our sanitation crew is amazing.
I know they are.
They are great. Like I said, I've got a new guy starting on Monday. Knock on wood, I am going to be fully staffed starting Monday in Public Works. That includes sanitation and all. So I'm not sure what's happened in the labor force recently, but I have 4 new hires, and let's hope they stick around.
So Megan, just to be clear, this discussion was supposed to be about whether or not we're going to lease a truck or buy a truck.
Correct.
Have you got that answer?
No.
Okay. We were introduced with the possibility of outsourcing. which I think it would be interesting
we'll look at-
to have that done. From me, I think because we may be going as, I mean, I have family in Tampa. There's one man on a truck. If you don't get your truck, your bin aligned with the stars, they're not taking it, and don't bother complaining. So that's probably where we're headed. But we still have some staff that are going to be around for a while, and I'm of the opinion that a lease would suit our needs as we evolve into this time when those one-armed sign monsters are going to take over. But that would also satisfy our residents, who will push back hard on changing because of the history of the wonderful staff that we have. So at least for me, I'm in favor of leasing for now.
Thank you.
The lining, do you do the lining when you, after the fact that you know it's needed, or do you do that like on a regular basis, every 6 months you do a lining?
No, sir. What our mechanic has noticed is that the metal is starting to peel away, which when that happens, we leak trash, juice all over the roads.
Right, so
So we do it whenever we notice that it needs to be done.
would it make sense to do it every 6 months?
No, it's way too expensive.
What are we
$7
talking
grand
about?
every 6 months?
Ouch.
Ouch. Yes,
For each truck.
per truck, yes. And that's just one quote that I received. That's from our local welder. So,
Is there a lining on it to begin with when you?
yes, they are aligned. But it's the acid that's in the food and the drinks. That's why we try to stress to empty your liquids down the drain before throwing them in the trash. And the rain that's in the dumpsters and keep the lids closed really does help us tremendously. Because we don't let garbage sit in those trucks except for on Sunday. And that's only the commercial truck. But truck 29 that this needs it is the residential truck, which is a 2020.
So, okay, if you did it on an annual basis and then you factored that in versus leasing, does that make sense? I don't know, I'm just throwing out ideas.
It shouldn't have to be done on an annual basis. I mean,
If it's totally rotting out and it's leaking out through the bottom.
Not yet.
No, I'm just saying to prevent it from ever getting to that. You prepare the steel while it's still in good condition, is what I'm saying.
And it is,
Keep
it's
it in
not
good-
leaking yet, but if we don't do it soon, it's going to.
I'm just on a regular basis, you know, again, if we decide to go leasing, that's the way we'll probably go when the next one's retired and then the next one's retired.
My next truck is not scheduled until 2027. But typically, we look at it before that budget year and decide whether we're going to push it out a year if we can. So 2027 is just in that 7-year replacement schedule. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be at that time frame.
Yeah, how many residential trucks again do you have?
2.
Two.
But we have on the road, we have a 4-truck fleet. Right now, we have 5. But 2 are typically for residential and 2 are typically for commercial. So our commercial will never be able to go to a front loader. It will always be a rear load truck, which will always have to be a 3-person crew because of the way that the city is and these commercial properties are, that staff has to go to buildings, and most places it's the dumpsters are still inside because there's nowhere to stage them outside. Pull the dumpster out, empty the dumpster, put the dumpster back. So our commercial crew, I mean, that's a tough one. But I have the longest commercial crew that's been together, Alvin and Eric, for I think a couple of years now.
Yeah. I feel your pain. Just trying to help.
No, I
Figure it
appreciate it.
out.
That's why we're just kind of trying to plan for the future of the mechanic. I mean, if we didn't have Leroy, we would probably need to up our maintenance budget and sanitation to $150,000 plus.
I don't know. I see these guys throwing things in the back of the truck all the time, even when they're probably not supposed to be, you know, as far
I've
as.
been very strict on that, so I hope not.
I just don't want to lose that level of service if we can help it.
I fully agree with you. I mean, there's certain items that I'm very strict that we do not pick up, commercial or concrete, pavers, those are a big
No, that's not what
no-no.
I'm talking about.
Okay, you're talking about like wood and furniture?
No,
That's
I'm talking
totally
about,
fine.
you know, you have Wednesdays when you have yard waste.
Oh, absolutely.
But
That
what
goes into-
happens, or, you know, if on Friday they had some palm fronds out there, they're picking them up and they're throwing them on their
100%,
back.
and they know to do that,
And,
yes.
and you're going to lose that with a side loader.
Not necessarily. That's not necessarily. What you're going to lose with a side loader on the residential route is that if you have a piece of furniture, but there will be another truck that is going around to pick up a couch, or those items are supposed to be scheduled for pickup
Right, they're
anyways,
supposed to
because
call
that's a
ahead.
bulk item pickup.
Yeah, we lose the convenience of our residents placing an item for trash on any day of the week, and it'll either picked up one or another day of that week.
Yes.
What you're losing that convenience is now our residents have to plan
Yes.
when to place that for collection.
I'm not
And
talking
I
about-
understand
I'm not
that's.
talking about bulk items.
I'm not talking about bulk items, just yard waste, for example. You cut a couple palm fronds off, as you stated, they will have to know that that only gets picked up on certain day of the week and not the 2 other days that your trash was picked on. That's really the issue, unfortunately. As I said, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing, but that's how almost every other city handles it. I know we're not every other city, but that's the reality is even if it's one palm frond and you put it out on Friday, which is one of your collection, yes, our staff will take it. In the future, that's not necessarily going to be the case, and I understand that's the convenience that people have experienced here for 40 years, maybe
Forever.
50 years.
Yeah. But there is a reason for the landscaping on Friday, or on Wednesdays. We do recycle that. We take that to the dump and it does get recycled for mulch. So we get,
If we collect it on Friday, it may
it
not.
just gets mixed in.
It gets thrown in with
Yeah.
the trash.
So we get discounts and that, we get a recycling grant, and there's kind of reasons behind that. And the residents have adapted very, very well to this
To a
new
new
toter.
schedule, yeah.
And honestly, it's, yes, it was growing pains at first, but I'm pleasantly surprised with how well it's gone. So, and we do still give as much of a level of service as we can. We have quite a few people that we do still pick up the toters from the garage if they are disabled. We do pick up a palm frond here and there if it's laying on the grass, because it's something that the guys do, but
Right, I mean, if it's a palm frond or two, and this is,
yes,
this
but they
conversation's
could also
getting
put it
way-
in their
way
trash
too-
can.
Right, I get it.
Yes.
But regardless, back to, you either want to purchase one or lease one,
Yes.
and either way, you want it to be a side loader.
Yes. And I want to keep it at a 2-person crew. But I want to be able to run that residential crew with a 1-person in the event we do not have staffing. Just planning for the future to keep it
Why do I
in-house.
feel like it's a drip, 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 drip?
It's not.
Okay, thank you.
Purchase versus lease, I'm all for the lease. However, I would like an aggressive inquiry to get prices to potentially farm it out, and let's see where we stand with that.
Okay.
I mean, we're going to lose staff, the old-time staff that's been here where we've had this customer service for years. That's all going to change, and we know that. We have staffing issues. It's great today. It could be crazy a week from now because we don't know what we don't know. However, with an outside vendor, they're paid a certain amount of money to do a job. They have to post. So I'm all for lease instead of purchase at this time.
Well, I'm actually for the side loader, obviously, with a 2-person crew. I'm more leaning toward Madeira Beach owning a new truck as part of an asset. I'm afraid of, if we outsource it, the consistency that we have now will be gone. That means we know at a certain time, sanitation trucks will be coming down the road at a certain time. outsourcing it, and you're just leaving our citizens up for, I don't know, maybe they'll be here between this time, and they're not going to be happy with that, I believe. So right now, I'm leaning towards an investment in Madeira Beach. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on this?
We will come back with, we can probably get some idea on numbers. I do know that Waste Pro does charge us $11.74 per resident, I should say per unit
Per month.
for recycling.
Per can? Is that
Per
unit?
can.
Per can?
Yes. So I'm sure it would be somewhere close to that number, but we'll check and see if we can get some fresh numbers.
Okay. All right, no further comment on that or discussion. Now we have 144th, 145th Avenues Road Project.
Well, hello again.
Hi there.
I believe you all have in your packet, not in your packet, I don't think I really included anything, but in the capital improvements plan that you all approved in the fiscal '24 budget, we have kind of a outlay, same as the vehicles, schedule year. So for that area in particular, it's called Area 3A. I have it on my schedule to start engineering in '25 and possible construction in '26. With that being said, engineering used to only take 1 year. Now it's taking 2 years. Construction is about the same cost or time frame. But we are also working with Pinellas County on the utility side of it because they have a lot of aging infrastructure. Most every dip that you feel on the road is not from our utility failing. That is from Pinellas County or a pothole that they've dug to underground some type of utility that they neglected to properly pack and then repave. I actually had one right over in your area today where I contacted Pinellas County because the road is completely sinking, and we've already checked our storm drain. It's not our storm drain. So this list has gone to Pinellas County for their budgeting, and that way we're in line, and that way that they can replace their utilities at the same time so that they're not coming back through and destroying our brand new pavement like they've done in Boca Ciega.
And I totally appreciate you doing that and reaching out. Right now, I think we had, between that horseshoe on 144th and 145th, we had 10 new homes built.
Oh, I know. I was there
10
today.
new 3-story homes built, along with docks,
Yes.
along with the pilings being hammered in.
Yes.
You know, I think once it's stopped, I'm going to be like, whoa, quietness, But
Yeah.
right now, it's also a health issue, because I have had residents come up to me that walk that horseshoe all the time and laughingly say, well, I just tripped over part of the street, the cracks in the street, it's amazing how it's buckled. But if we address the issue now, hopefully we can curtail a health incident in the near future or the future.
Yeah, unfortunately, the heavy traffic on that road from those construction vehicles
Yes.
has completely destroyed that road. I
Yes.
looked at the pavement report from 2018, which based a lot of these road projects off of it, and that road was in good condition in 2018, so that's only 6 years.
Yes.
And as you stated, those monster houses, as Robin likes to call them, McMansions, our roads were not constructed 50 years ago for these trucks to bring in these massive cinder blocks that weigh, I don't even know how much. They weren't originally constructed for that. So as we do these new road projects, obviously we check soil samples to see what the base is, and then we construct as needed. But to try to reconstruct that road now with all of that construction going on, we would just totally ruin all of the new asphalt.
Well, yeah, well, definitely, there's more houses to be built there.
But it is on the schedule.
And I appreciate that, so I can tell the residents, at least give them a timeline of 2025.
Yes, that is to start the engineering. So typically, as we're doing now, we do the curbs, new stormwater, and then mill and resurface the roadways. Unless the soil sample comes back and says that the base is not good, then we'll have to rebuild the roadway.
Okay.
So hopefully, in that case out there, it's not.
Right.
I can't remember if 144th, 145th was man-made or if that was part of the original. I don't know either. I'd have to look back.
I'm not quite sure.
But-
But I definitely appreciate your help in
No problem.
getting this solved and, getting it on its course. So thank you very, very much.
Absolutely.
Megan, I usually look in the packet and say staff recommends. Are you just asking, is this just informational to let us know?
I think Commissioner McGeehan was requesting information.
No, I mean, for this item, what do you,
Oh,
I see, this is just,
this,
okay.
Okay.
So it's just informational?
yes,
Got it. Yes, got it, thanks.
you're welcome.
Vice Mayor, you have anything?
I just had a quick question.
Sure.
When you're doing these road projects, I know it's dependent on the project, but is there any engineering regarding the elevation of these roads? And is that coordinating with, I just stumbled across a memorandum from the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council that I had from October of '22, and it mentioned a minimum elevation of the seawalls at 5 feet above.
This is going into a way deeper conversation that I think Jenny, Marcy, and myself have just met with our engineer who's working on our watershed management plan.
You just answered my question.
Yes.
It is something that it's in
We are-
discussion.
Yes,
For
we are.
any of these new road projects.
It is. But you can't do one without the other, so we can't elevate the roads without the homes being elevated. We can't, because then we flood out the homes. So we are looking at, in the master plan, you kind of have to start here and work our way, but we have talked to Advanced, who is working on the watershed management plan, on, to come here and to present to you all and to kind of make it as easy to understand for the residents, because it's not just as simple as, we're gonna raise the road 5 feet. We can't do that, not with every home being elevated.
I'd love to have that discussion.
Absolutely, it is in the works. We
And
have,
that being said, 144th or 145th may be the first road.
I'd love to have that
Well,
discussion.
and the good and the bad, most of the homes eventually, or within the next couple of years on that street, may be elevated.
correct.
A lot, because there have been a significant number that have been, the single families have been demoed and the 3 stories are there. So if you get an entire street to do that, certainly makes it easy to elevate the road. Treasure Island is doing that now as well, trying to kind of
Yeah,
The
work with
discussion-
residents to make that determination.
When they did Crystal Island, and I've had that same discussion, and it was, if you have one home that's below, then you can't do it. And I want to have that discussion, because that's wrong. You can't use the street, on a barrier island as a way to, a planned passage for your stormwater. That's my opinion. I think it's wrong.
we will set up, talk to Justin and make sure we get everything. We're working on models and data that they're collecting for the watershed management plan. They're working on surveying right now of all the structures. So I think we're to be completed with that plan hopefully by the end of next year. So having that plan in place is going to show us those areas that are of high concern that we really need to work on. How are we going to move in this direction? And Treasure Island is actually one of the models that are working towards that, and I think Advanced is actually working with them. So that helps us as their sister community, in a sense, to kind of work towards that same plan as, we've talked about before, having all the barrier islands kind of follow the same model,
Yeah, I remember being at a Big C meeting, and I think it was St. Pete, the director over there. He did a great presentation, and it was to my point. You can't adopt, which, in my opinion, that's what's happened here. You adopt what they're doing in Tampa in your regulations over here when you're creating the city, and that you use the streets as a vehicle to drain the water off of the properties and into your stormwater. I think that's just wrong.
Well, we will make sure that we tell the engineering firm to model some and bring some
I'd like to
good
just have the
information for
discussion
that.
with them.
Of course, we are working on it. We just had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and that was one of the main topics.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jay, I think you're up next. Madeira Beach Youth Baseball and Softball Contract, sir.
1 second, let me plug in here. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Just bringing forth, I've worked with the Madeira Beach Youth Baseball and Softball Organization here that utilizes our fields to put together a contract just for continued use of the facilities. We've, since I began here, we've worked with them annually for field use, and, you know, you guys have seen them numerous times for going to play for different tournaments and stuff at the end of the year. And long and short of it is we've put this together just to ensure that there's a lot of moving parts in Pinellas County with youth baseball and softball, and a lot of people looking for fields and a lot of people looking for places to play. So we're just ensuring that we've got a good framework for our partnership as it moves forward. It's always been positive. It's always worked well. Nothing in here is really any different than anything we've ever done with them. It's just officially in a contract that we can show others that may have questions on the field use and everything else. Well, like I said, we just want to make sure that they've got the field use for this organization has grown from when we started to about somewhere between 50 and 70 children to almost 400. They're actually leasing other facilities outside of ours to make sure that they have practice and places to play and everything. But this is their home field. This is, they've got the Madeira Beach Youth Baseball and Softball on their chest, and just want to, ensure the future and continue the positive relationship we've had, and, make sure we're providing the right and necessary fields for these kids. So, didn't know if you guys had any questions on it. We've already discussed it with them. They're good with this contract as it is. The big thing is that we will meet annually and discuss it and renew it every year. So it's pretty easy. Again, we've had no issue with them in the past. So just want to make sure that it's essentially memorialized.
Looks like a solid contract, is very clear and concise. I have no issues with it at all. And Commissioners?
I recommend approval of this proposed contract.
Okay, so I'll bring it back at the next meeting for that.
Excellent job on the leagues, also, every year, year after year. So, all for it.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Park Street Antique Center lease for Public Works.
Good evening again.
Hi
I
there.
apologize. I just realized that my memo did not make it into the packet. So my apologies on that. We have leased this building over off of 94th Street since June 25th, 2013. Prior to that, the Public Works Department did have a building located in our current Public Works yard, but I guess that needed a roof replacement, and the city deemed that it wasn't feasible to replace a roof rather than demoing the building. So since that time, we have approximately 6,000 square feet of storage indoors over there, and we also have outdoor storage over there, which is where the garbage trucks sit. So we have a garage-type facility, which has a lift and all of the mechanics equipment, and then we have like an office space in there as well. So with that, we are requesting to extend it for 1 year with 3 one-year optional renewals due to the fact that we are planning to build a public works facility where we will move the mechanic onto the island. hopefully we have a mechanic at that time, which we will. We'll have a replacement, but I'm hoping that we can do that sooner rather than later, which we're working with an engineer to get a bid or a quote to start the engineering services for that. So I am requesting approval for an extension for 1 year, and then hopefully we'll have something in the works in that time frame for a new building.
These two documents, they're the same document. You just-
Correct, one's just
what's-
2022 and one's 2023.
Okay.
It's just showing the only thing that's changed is $100 more a month per
You're not
rent.
having any issues with this facility
sir.
whatsoever. This is what you want to do.
Yes,
The only issue, and I just want to bring this to your attention on page 2,
it says for storage.
that your premises shall be used and occupied by tenant for the purpose of storing city garbage trucks, city vehicles, and equipment related to tenant's business, the permitted use, and for no other purpose. I just don't want the city to get in trouble over this language.
It's the same lease that we've had since 2013.
I understand, but the legal language could get you in trouble, and we don't want the city to get in trouble over this.
I'll talk to the landlord. I mean, I can definitely change it. I don't think he's going to have an issue with changing it for what the use of the building is.
And you've been using it as
Yeah.
needed anyway. I just want to make sure we have all the bases covered. We're not going to back ourselves in a corner, that's all.
Thank you.
Other than that, we got to do what we have to do here.
We do.
So I'm in agreement.
Has it been a year already since we approved this?
It has. I
And we di-
actually,
And we didn't do it for extended years?
well, we did it for 1 year to build the building. So we'll never be able to not have a lease over there because on the island, we'll never have storage for the garbage trucks. So we will always need some type of space over there. But the hope is to cut down that lease because we won't need the indoor garage. We will just need the office for the guys to be able to clock in, and then we'll have the storage space. So our hope was to just have something in the works already, but unfortunately that engineering has just taken a little bit more time.
Makes a lot of sense. It just seems like it was just here 6 months ago.
I agree.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And maybe in the end, if we can come up to some type of arrangement to outsource this, we may not need that facility at all
We would need that for the mechanic.
until we build the building over here on the island, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Commissioner McGeehan, you have anything? No. Okay. Any other commissioners? No? All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Next up is Resolution 2023-13 FY 2024 Budget Amendment Number 1.
All right, I'll take this. So you might be wondering, well, gee, we just passed the 2024 budget. Why are we already doing an amendment? This is pretty standard and common that we adopt an amendment soon after the advent of fiscal year 2024. And what happens is we go through the budgeting process for the upcoming fiscal year around the springtime, start to finalize around summer, and we've got these projects, planned purchases for that fiscal year 2023 that we think we're going to complete, don't budget for it in 2024. We encumber it, meaning we might have an outstanding purchase order against it, but for various reasons, that purchase order isn't fulfilled. It's maybe partially completed if it's a project, and we have multiple expenses against it, but there's certain elements of the project that need to finish and wrap up in 2024. And so we had those amounts encumbered in 2023. In our accounting system, we go through what's called a PO rollover process, where they look at their outstanding purchase orders that were more intended to be one-time, project-related one-time purchase, budgeted in '23, and we need to roll that forward to 2024 because it didn't finish in '23. So there's a number of budget amendment items in here where we describe the purpose of each. So we go through that PO rollover process and accumulate those and then put forth an amendment to you that to increase the budget based on those unplanned expenditures in '24 because we thought they'd be completed in '23. So we can go through, I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total, and that's the general theme overall. Purchase of a Chevy Silverado, litigation costs to construction defects involving the fire station rec building. Thought we'd finish incurring in '23, still ongoing in '24. A project relating to the ROC Park reflection pond, and then a commission chamber AV upgrade. We'd been budgeting for that for completion back in 2022 and '23. We'll still have some costs to incur in '24. And then a few other ones like the fire salary budget, we're increasing that by 15%. We went through that in a previous workshop meeting that was not contemplated during the FY 2024 budget process. So nothing in here should be too concerning. This is typical. We did this last year. We're in early 2024. We have those encumbered funds that we just didn't spend out in the previous fiscal year that we're adding to the budget for '24. Take any questions if you got them.
Is the FRS special risk under the fire, is that due to the 15% increase?
Right, because if you increase their salary, that contribution rate, which is, can't recall, 20-something percent per employee. So if you increase that employee's wages, their retirement contribution to FRS goes up proportionally by their contribution percentage.
Okay, thank you.
Other commissioners, you have any questions? I have none.
No, sir.
Not at this time.
Okay. Then the next item up is the agenda list pending items. City Manager, what do you have for us, sir?
So we track all our departments when we have our staff meetings. We review all upcoming agenda items as well as any prior items. So I put in the agenda packet that spreadsheet that we track everything. The request was that we keep a running list of items that continue as pending. So we will create, I just wanted to show you that this is an existing, I will create one that will have kind of a running list of those that are not resolved at the meeting that they occur, have a little bit more narrative to each one, what's happened, what's pending, and then I will provide that to all, make that available at least monthly, possibly twice every month, so after we have meetings to update, and therefore we can keep an eye on that, and that'll be on our website as well, so the public can see that. I realized we had not put this out for the public to see because really it's a work in progress, but there's no reason we can't. If there's something that comes before us that, for example, something related to economic development or redevelopment or something else, then we would sort of not include that for public view at the time. That can happen. I think it's a little bit rare, but the goal is to make this available, but keep a list of items. I sort of started at the end of the list to list some of the items, but for example, we still have liveaboards that we will bring back in addition to some of the items that are listed up there, but even so sanitation, discussion to outsource or keep in-house sanitation, and that will likely be pending for some time because it'll take a little bit of time to issue an RFP or RFQ to receive that data back as to what the market conditions are and what it would cost us. So that's what we will keep. We will make it public, and I'll provide that to you twice. I'm going to say twice a month after meetings.
Mr. Gomez, are you the only one that monitors these agenda items to make sure that we go back to it, or is there someone on our staff who, and I assume we're supposed to be, is there anybody whose job it is specifically to monitor? It's just you? Okay.
That's one of the roles of the manager.
Got it.
Myself, and I think and Megan in my office will review it. The clerk, obviously, this is used as a guide to keep us, this is what's coming up. These are the items that every year we have to adopt, such as some of the budget, some of the appointments, the commission, handbook that you have to review every year. So it's a working, fluid document. Any department can add items, and I do encourage them to, if you know when you have an item that needs to come before the commission, we include it on here. They're listed up here by date, so of a workshop or a meeting. So we will, but yeah, pretty much I'm the one that kind of monitors this, since I am kind of responsible for providing this to you. The clerk simply prepares and then compiles the agenda, puts it into the software, and then publishes and prints it.
So you're just showing us so that we now have an opportunity to monitor along
Yeah,
as well?
yes, yeah, and if you have anything to add at any time, I mean, you can do that at any time, you can email that to me when we have
This
one-on-ones.
would prompt us.
Yeah, at
It might
this,
prompt
yeah.
us to
at
remind,
thi-
oh, this, we were
Yes.
talking about this.
Correct,
We need
so
to-
nothing falls
Off the plate.
falls off.
Good, I like that.
Or it takes, sometimes some things do take years. We've been on a couple of items for even before I arrived, so that's a way to track this, and let's try to get these to a conclusion.
Good, thank you. I like this.
And where will this be found?
It'll be in the city manager's.
Report?
Well, I will provide it to you when in the report, the email I provide you every Friday. At least every other Friday, you will receive this, but it'll also be on on our website, in the city manager's department listing. I'll put it under the commission as well.
Okay. Didn't know that you already had pulled something like this together. Since you're very familiar with it, on the discussion about undergrounding utilities, and I know we had talked about having a presentation from either Kimley Horn or whoever we're using already about getting grants, hearing what they had to say. Is that on here?
We'll add it if it's not. I think we were looking to, because December got very, very full, we'll have it definitely in January.
Okay.
Yeah, and this only goes-
Just, you know, that's why I brought it up. There, things just seem to get forgotten about because there's so many other things that are on
Yeah,
our plate.
no, but utility undergrounding will continue for several years as we go through road
I
projects.
just want to, you know, it's like you get the pile. You have to keep bringing it back to the top of the pile.
But it'll be on the pending list, so there'll be this so quote master list for each meeting, and then there will be items that that are not resolved that will be then pending for future meeting, or still in progress, excuse me.
Right, that's kind of where I was going when.
And
I
we'll
think
add to what you have in front of you.
Just, okay.
Yeah, this is not all inclusive by all means.
No, I mean, I'm just looking for open items, you know, just like a checklist. Okay, this is something we're gonna have to talk about within the next 6 months or whatever.
Yeah, we'll include that in this list.
Yeah, okay. All right. Thank you so
I
much.
think it's a great idea also. Definitely.
I agree. It'll stop things from slipping through the cracks that we've forgotten about because we got so busy with so many other items. So this is perfect, actually.
Exactly, definitely.
Next up, a city manager report. You have
Yeah,
some?
and for October, just briefly, and I'm not sure if this was emailed to you, I don't think it has been yet, but because it's missing the department, some of the details from the departments that are normally on here, but can still go through this is what I prepare almost every month, and then there are multiple pages after that have departmental activity, but I'll still go through this at this time. We're still, obviously, every month we remind the public, our residents, businesses, and even visitors that are interested, or seasonal folks that come down certain times of the year, please sign up to get our emails, or here's a way to contact the city electronically, via the phone, in person. Certainly come by City Hall. We're here 8 to 4:30. We were looking to, as I had notified you last week, about a change in the hours. We're still going to debate our hours. We rarely have anybody coming in before 8:30 in the morning. But I'll keep updating you. We're still kind of looking. We may do it as a test basis.
Yeah, I saw something somewhere, more than likely on the internet, that showed the hours of 8:30 to 4:30.
Oh,
not-
okay, we'll take a look.
Yeah, not 8 to 4:30, so.
We're open 8 to 4:30.
Yeah,
and
it's
have
at
been since I've
8:30
been
to
here.
4. I'll have
Okay.
to find it.
Okay,
I'll
if you do, let
I'll
me
do a
know and we'll look
screenshot
for
and
it.
find it for you.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
No problem.
And we continue to encourage folks, and we have had more folks in the last couple of weeks visit our store. And we do have some holiday attire to kind of get folks in the festive mood and during the holiday season. The sand dunes, the restoration project, we were notified earlier today that will now begin on Monday, November the 27th. So Monday, November the 27th, the Pinellas County contractor, Gator Dredging, will mobilize their equipment, and the north side of the Archibald Park parking lot will be closed. That will serve as their storage and staging area, and we will begin to see either the following day, Tuesday, November the 28th, or Wednesday, November the 29th, a considerable number of trucks bringing sand in through Archibald Park out onto our sand as they begin to restore approximately about 2,000 linear feet of sand dunes. It will take anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks to complete that. During that time, access to the water will be unavailable in certain areas, but it will be well marked and identified, and we do apologize for the inconvenience, but it'll be between Thanksgiving and up to hopefully a week to a little bit longer before Christmas, so not the busiest time during our Thanksgiving to Christmas, but unfortunately that's the schedule that we've been dealt with to complete that. But we've been releasing some information. We'll continue releasing more, and some of the information that we continue to put out through all of our media about what will be happening. We just reminded residents we're still throughout the month of October, we were still hurricane season. We're still in hurricane season through the end of this month. There's actually a low out in the Caribbean that could form into some type of tropical type storm. So to encourage people just to stay tuned and still be mindful of the weather, certainly. And folks that haven't signed up for Ready Pinellas or subscribed to it, it's always a good idea. That continues the year round. So if there's a significant event, significant road closure, Ready Pinellas still submits updates through the app. So it's a good thing to receive that, particularly for any emergency situations. We're still very thankful for our organizations that schedule our trash collections and help to keep our city as litter-free as possible. The Trash Pirates held the one in October. Of course, they've already held one this month. This Saturday, the Trash Turtles will be holding a cleanup. So again, we're very thankful for their participation and encouraging people to come out and, again, help us keep our city as clean as possible. Again, we remind folks about our sanitation collection schedules, our recycling, and what we can recycle, what not to recycle. We've been kind of steady in the total, about the 35 to 36 ton quantity of recycling material, and we've been pretty now steady for for the last 6 months in terms of the contamination percentage, which has been about 25 to 26%. So out of all the collections, about 74 to 75% of what's collected is actually good to be recycled. So that's quite high. Our residents do a very good job of recycling properly. Recycle plastic, glass, aluminum, paper, cardboard. Do not recycle pizza boxes. Those are not recyclable, or other items that may have had food in them. That does contaminate the...
How's that compare to
So we have improved in total collections because now the container is larger, from the 18-gallon to the 64-gallon. I believe before we were averaging about 30 tons, which was still quite good. I'm sorry, I think I'm in the mid to upper 20s, but I'll confirm, because now that I think I haven't seen one since I think the first month I was here, January of 22, where I think the collection was about 25 tons. So we are considerably higher, averaging close to 35 tons in recycling material.
But the percentage of good recycling versus
We've stayed
waste,
pretty steady.
Even with the lids? Really?
Even with the lids. I mean, that is simply people putting the correct items to recycle and not putting food. Before, even when they were open before, I think people still were pretty good about not putting food items or trash. What would happen is if it rained, then it would all get soaked, but it doesn't necessarily contaminate if it's wet. If it's dirty or leaching, or, you put a trash bag on top of it and it seeps down, then it's contaminated the container. Of course, with the lids, we don't have that anymore, unless the can gets knocked over. So it's improved, and I think people are doing recycling very well. I included reminders, as I did the prior month, of what the work that the sheriff's does. I have had residents ask me, would it be better if we had our own police? It would be a little bit more expensive, mainly the capital, the equipment, the vehicles. Those are very expensive. I think a benefit of outsourcing, contracting with the sheriff's office, is the equipment cost. Even though they continue to increase, it is still less expensive than if we would likely, and again, a one-time cost, but then you do have replacement costs, just as we were discussing about the garbage truck, probably about $700,000 or $800,000 just to purchase a dozen vehicles, and just for patrol. So again, we're looking to spend about $1.65 million this year. Likely our annual spend would be close to that. Hard to say, but the capital would take us well over $2 million. So that's where you can realize your savings. We live in a city, fortunately, with low crime. We don't have very low violent crime. Overall, we're in a safe city. But the sheriffs they're out there every day. They're patrolling. Whenever we need any specialty item, they provide that to us, whether it's a K-9, whether it's drones, whether it's the SWAT team call out, whatever we need, it is available. And I included the contact information for our 2 deputies that are assigned to us for our code enforcement and our community policing, Deputies Krager and Snyder. And they're very visible out there. Most residents say, well, yeah, you can't miss Deputy Krager, who's about 6'8". He's about 6'4". And anyway, they're very happy to be here, and they're continue to do a very good job. Also, just other reminders about cameras that are available throughout the city. I have had residents tell me that they appreciate especially those that visit a couple times a year or every year, they're looking at those cameras throughout the year and seeing what the beach looks like and kind of rekindling some memories. So it's just reminding folks. Also in our building department that we now have the online software to file your permits. That's been working fairly well. You can, after a permit is filed, you can go back in and look at the status and where it is and what the reviews have been. So that's still obviously something, an improvement over what we had before. Parking, we just issued reminders of our resident parking. Reminded, both residents and property owners come in and get your resident permit pass, and that we will start for calendar year 24 on December 1st. And this coming year, they will have the opportunity to just go online and upload their vehicle registration, their driver's license, and then everything will be based on your license plate. So no need to come in and get a sticker. Of course, people can still come in, provide their information, and that information will be loaded into our system. So really no significant changes. We remind our residents and businesses and visitors, we do have a library, a very active library, and listed the hours. They're open 6 days a week, a list of the programs that they provide, and then kind of conclude with all the upcoming events that are scheduled in this month of November, which, usually including some of our city meetings that are obviously on the same days and times, with a few exceptions in November and December. So if we have upcoming events that are a little bit either newer events or just reminders, I tend to include that in the update, and including the one that our Madeira Way Market opens December the 6th, so kind of giving a good advance notice to look out for that on Madeira Way. As I said, we will include the updates from the departments, and we will make sure that this ends up also on our website in the city manager's office. Happy to answer any questions.
Can you tell us about the exciting work that's being done to the dog park? I see
Yes,
pallets of
so
sod.
that started
Pallets.
this week on Monday. The contractors began apparently the water access that was in the park, the fountain, that water came from the connection from the fire department. That's how it was created. Now the access will come from the fields. So because there's water already available out through the fields, but it'll be a little bit of an improvement. And yes, the sod was delivered earlier today, and we're looking to resod the park to make that improvement. And once that is completed, we will be looking to add some shade and not overly expensive or anything to cover the entire park, just to add a little bit more shading. I mean, even though we're heading into the winter, that's what we had discussed, just to make some minor improvements. Essentially, I mean, under a 50, realistically be about 30 to 40,000 or maybe less of just the improvements with getting the surface easier to use, so it's not just dirt and mulch, and then add a little bit of shade and some additional small seating areas, because we've had some requests for some seating areas. And we're also looking possibly in the spring to add a divider and split the park up for small dogs and big dogs.
How about irrigation? Is the new sod going to have irrigation?
Yes, I think, and that's what the water work that was to extend it from the field. The irrigation will be the reclaimed water to irrigate, and the fountain will be the potable for the dogs.
Great job. Thank you. Any questions, commissioners? All right, we have nobody in the audience. No questions. That was the last item. The time is 8:16 p.m. City Attorney, you have anything for us?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay, all right. It's 8:16 p.m. The Board of Commissioners workshop is adjourned.